on the case debate, the next is policymaking is bad, but if we win that policymaking or fiat is good, or that the alt fails, then you should look to the app, because if there's even a slightest chance to solve for militarism, that means that we can also solve for capitalism. First, extend our Chatterjee and Meyer 14 evidence. This means that even the discussion of the app is a shift away from militarism also operates under their framework, because mere act of me discussing this app creates a cultural shift away from militarism, which also means that we stop the glorification of violence. There are several net benefits to this. The eighth one is that we get to discuss militarism to multiple perspectives. Now we can discuss with your policy making. The app also allows for grassroots change to spill over. B one is that at least a real world change, because we can advocate for these policies in the real world, so we have more of a material impact, because now we have more skills to challenge capitalism. C one is that not all oppression was capitalist. For example, there was oppression going on in the Soviet Union, but this wasn't because of capitalism. There was communism in the Soviet Union, which means that methodological pluralism is a good thing, because not all oppression is going to be capitalism based. And they say that scenario analysis is bad because it doesn't focus on the problem now, but our argument is that scenario analysis can also focus on the problems now, i.e. militarism, for example. And two is turn we left for more grassroots activism, because now we can also speak the language of policymaking, so we can also go and advocate for anti-capitalist policies. And say, and three is that they say that the use of government means that we're abstracting away from reality, but we're being more realistic, because now we can advocate against capitalism. They also say that Wilson 15 evidence is flawed, but they have no warrant for why our Wilson 15 evidence is flawed. Now go to the K. First is their first link is that we assume that free speech is a free thing, but we don't assume that free speech. We don't assume that free speech is inherently free. We don't ignore economic reality. To his term, we actually understand the starting point better. That's why we're advocating against militarism. We allow for free speech. That means that we can solve for militarism and also stop these sort of economic realities from happening. And choose that they say that the app relies on a public-private distinction, but there's no link. There's nowhere that the app says that they rely on a public-private distinction. All we're saying is that we should allow for free speech to challenge the military. To his turn, this allows for less of a public-private distinction, because now we can actually challenge the military and stop their militaristic policies. Three is that they say that speech is a commodity, but one is free speech is not a commodity because it can't be bought and sold. And two is never mind. Off their far 15 evidence, one is that there's no link between speech and extinction. So, first of all, is that there's no specific internal link between speech and extinction. So, either the K is non-unique or they're just abstracting away from realities. Two net benefits of the app. One is that either the K is abstracting away from reality because they're talking about extinction, which is only going to happen millions of years from now, and there's no specific way free speech solved for this. B one is that the K is non-unique because free speech isn't the internal link to solving for rejecting the app isn't the internal link for solving for extinction. Off the alternative, one is that the alt fails because the alt needs the app in the first place to reject capitalism, because if we aren't able to discuss militarism, that means that we're not going to be able to resist capitalism. Two, that the alt fails because policy action needs to solve capitalism in the long term, because the state is going to be inevitable.
Is that 4 minutes?
2:35.
Yeah, I didn't think it was 4. So first thing is, it needs to be 4 minutes, right, of a proper 1 AR. But let's go over some things that I think can make it easier for you to get to that standpoint. So, setting up a 1 AR versus a K, and here you can be taking some notes as well. First thing you have to do is start on the case debate, and then go to the critique. So you did a good job. You started on the case debate, and then you went to the critique. The reason this is important in a 1 AR versus K debate is because a lot of times the stuff on the case debate will influence the stuff on the critique debate given framework is involved. 90% of the critique debate to me is who is winning the better framework. If you're winning a framework that indicates that methodological pluralism is the basis for understanding oppression and their view is abstract, or the critique is winning that no, actually their methodological pluralism is wrong in the context of oppression, that decides the debate. The link and the impact of the critique are important, but to me, before you even filter out what the link and the impact mean, one side should be definitively winning a better framework for the debate that I think establishes at least for a judge, an easier way to vote negative on a K or vote affirmative against a critique. So,
okay.
On the
case... 1 second, can I just turn on the fan? It's like really hot, so...
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. So the first thing you want to do is, again, overview.
Okay.
So in your overview, you want to be able to give specifically 3 voting issues that you want it to win in the debate. So, for example, I need to win the permutation, the link turn, and case offense. right? If you're able to effectively sort of win these specific things, that's telling the judge, this is the roadmap for this 1AR. I need to win these 3 arguments or these 2 arguments in order to win the debate. So I liked your overview, but I don't think it had a specific implication of what to do with this overview and how to win a specific argument in the debate. After the case overview, you want to go specifically to framework. I think framework is the most important thing after that. On framework, you want to answer all the 1 and C rebuttals against your framework and then extend your most important arguments. So answering 1 and C rebuttals specifically against framing. Do roll the ballot comparison, which you didn't do, and extend your framework. So that means that when you're talking about the Barma evidence, you need to indicate what the 1 and C said against the Barma evidence, which was bad, and then extend the Barma evidence on your own. A lot of times 1ARs just extend through ink and they don't answer the 1 and C arguments, and the 2NRs blow it up because they're like, well, we said fiat was illusory. We said the 1AR was technocratic. Yeah, we gave an impact in the 1AR, but here's how we can magnify the impact in the 2NR, and because the 1AR didn't respond to it, it's very hard to win. So given you had 6 minutes of your 1AC to prepare against these types of things, it's really crucial that you utilize the parts of your affirmative in your 1AR to hedge your bets against a lot of the arguments coming out of the critique. So that means answering the framework, answering fiat is illusory, extending your framework, and then doing roll the ballot comparison. This is the most crucial part of the debate, and this is the time we have to. This is the argument we have to spend the most time on. It is a question of understanding.
First part. Like the 3 things. I just want to write it down.
The overview. Oh.
No, like you extend and then something else.
So that's answering 1 and C rebuttals against your framing. Do roll the ballot comparison.
Okay.
So answer 1 and C rebuttals, do roll the ballot comparison, and then extend your framework.
Okay.
And this is just basic argumentation, right? You have to answer what they say, compare, and then extend your stuff. So this is not too hard, but the content of this argument is a lot harder for people to wrap their heads around. So you're answering 1 and C rebuttals, doing your framework comparison, doing your roll the ballot comparison. The number one thing that your 1AR in this type of framework has to win in a structural violence framework specifically is that state engagement is not even necessary, but it is educational, right? And this is the whole Zanotti stuff, the whole heuristic stuff, the whole, like, I'm not role-playing, but, like, it's still a good... Like, it's very hard to not be shifty in this argument, but I think the easiest way to determine it is make the conclusion that the state is not ethical. Tell the judge, yes, the state is not good. That is an absolute truth by all, pretty much liberal standards. The state is a really bad thing. However, there is a value in engaging in hypothetical stimulation of what the state would do in a world given we are in academic activity. For example, if a House member wants to get a bill passed through Congress or some legal thing and they need votes on the bill, in order to get those votes, they need to tell people what the world would look like if this bill were to happen. If it's a climate change bill, it's like, well, we would reduce emissions by this much. Here's what the world would look like. Here's the intricacies and nuances between the justifications of the policies. Here's why you should vote off of it. That's the decision-making model you're taking into the debate round. First, you have to justify why debate is good to talk about these things, which is first answering the Harvey and the Marsh evidence saying that debate is capitalist, we shouldn't be talking about policymaking in this space, right? So you have to win that first layer. Second, you then have to win that governmentality and the ability to fiat, the ability to imagine the world in a different light, is still valuable and important given we are young debaters and trying to establish our own intellectual routes. So here's how it would start. After you do your overview, you get into the framework. Let's say there are 4 parts to the framework.
Okay.
The first is your rolled ballot comparison. So ROB, RO judge, framing will come first because you need your rolled ballot and roll the judge to win the debate, right? So this is comparison between interrogate capitalism and your minimizing oppression. Second, extend specific framework cards, Pappas, Bleicher, I don't know what else was there, Barma, etc., that you want to win. Third, so first is roll the judge framing. Second is extending specific cards.
Okay.
Third, answer neg args against these framework arguments that you're going for. So if you're going for Papa's, Bleecker and Barma, answer the negative arguments against those cards. Fourth, win debate framing. And debate framing is why is debate key for your impacts, which in a K debate will happen. In a disad debate, no one cares, right? It's just about what does the app do. In a K debate, it's that debate should allow us to talk about capitalism. Debate should allow us to talk about racism, etc., etc., etc. So you need to win debate framing. And then finally, you need to win state framing. And state framing is essentially education of state engagement, hypothetical action is good, right? These 5 things, before we even get into like the K and like your links and all your stuff to your impacts, that was okay, right? But because you had so much more time, you could have done a lot more. Before we even get to that, we need to be able to really, really structure this framework stuff down and understand what nuances we need to win. If you're able to decisively win 2 minutes of the framework in the 1AR, then the 2 minutes you spend on substance will be so much more easier because you're winning the framework, right? It's a lot easier to win a permutation, for example, something you forgot to do. It's a lot easier to win a permutation if you're winning that the methodological pluralism card, right? If you're winning to the judge that we should have different perspectives to understand oppression, the permutation makes so much more sense. The net benefit to the permutation makes so much more sense, and it links back to both rolled ballots probably better than before, right? So if you're winning debate framing about hypothetical inaction is good, it's much easier to win the abstraction disset on the alternative, because if you're winning that we should imagine a world that is different and we should be able to relate to what the world would look like outside of what we know it in the status quo, then winning the abstraction stuff on the alternative is so easier, right? Framing makes the debate easy to win. The 1AR becomes simple when you're able to really decisively win a lot of these framework arguments that are the pillars and the foundation of being able to write out a judge's ballot and essentially win the debate. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I think this stuff is what we really have to focus on. Now on your, your things particular, your 1AR. So your overview was like, if we went policymaking, your fiat is good, that means we solve for cap. That's one part of your overview. You next need to, your overview should be voters, right? Traditional debate, here's 3 voters. Your overview needs to have voters. So policymaking should be a voter. Perm should be a voter. Impact turn should be a voter, etc., etc. I like that you are good at discussing AF offense. I think that was the strongest part of your 1AR, considering you haven't debated in a long time. I've noticed it's hard for debaters to extend AF offense and actually say what their AF is. That is important. For you, it was a lot easier. That came a little bit more natural to you. The framework stuff is the stuff that you had a problem with in terms of actually being able to answer things. The critique. The link stuff was okay. I think on the impact, you need to be indicating that free speech is the internal link to solving oppression, or to solving extinction, right? Their arguments are, we can't have free speech because it leads to extinction and climate change, etc., etc. Your argument needs to be like, 1, there's no link, free speech isn't capitalist. B, in order to reject capitalism, you need to be able to talk freely. So unless we're able to use free speech to reject capitalism, we don't get any of the access to their impacts. You're essentially saying their methodology to reject capitalism is bad. Your methodology has an internal link, which is your free speech argument, your Wilson evidence, your cultural shift argument, which can deconstruct militarism, which is synonymous to capitalism. Free speech key to rejecting capitalism. You're winning a net benefits of permutation. You're winning that your affirmative links to all their impacts. So that the first step is using your AF to extend offense. The second step is using your AF to deconstruct the nuances of the critique, which is using specific links and internal link arguments in order to defeat the criticism.
Okay.
And all the other stuff we'll go over when we do this stuff again, because you have to do this 1 year a couple times, because you just could have said so much more, right? You had so much more time that you just didn't discuss on that stuff. So when we meet again, probably on Wednesday, probably not tomorrow, I'll text you for time updates. We will do this 1 year again, so your homework is to do this 1 year.